Hi! In a game you might want to give the player the opportunity to type in a name for the player character that then can be used throughout the game. This is one way of doing that. You need a global variable to store the name and a method to type the name and add that to the variable. I'm doing this in the ctjs-editor. Setting up a global variable can be done in a custom script. Let us call the variable PlayerName and set the start value to an empty string. To make a method for input, we could use the computer's keyboard. We would then use actions and input methods and set up actions for each letter we will give the user the possibility to use. Do we want everything on a keyboard to be able to be used? Might we want to give the possibility to use some letters that might not be on all keyboards? And how about players that use a touch screen without a keyboard? A way to handle those questions is to put a virtual keyboard on the screen where the keys can be, in simulation, pressed by a mouse click or a touch. So I draw a keyboard and set up the letters that I will allow the player to use. I use the settings of a Dvorak keyboard instead of using the QWERTY keyboard, and I add the Swedish letters O, Ä, Ö, because why not? So the Dvorak keyboard is constructed to be more efficient than the QWERTY keyboard. Not that we need extra efficiency to type in one name, but it's fun to do something different. So our keyboard is just an image of a keyboard. It does nothing in itself. All the work is done with a mouse click or a screen touch, and where on the screen the click or the touch is made. A click on an area representing a key will add a letter to the player name variable, but the program don't know that there is a key. We need an action for input of the mouse click. I set the action MB1 for the primary mouse button. To catch a mouse click, we will use CT actions MB1 pressed. There are two alternatives to use for the key being pushed down: MB1 pressed and MB1 down. The difference is that pressed just catches the first frame that the button is down, and down catches every frame that the button is pressed down. If we choose down, the program will add the letter repeatedly as long as the key is held down. With pressed, it just added the letter once, and that is what we want. We need to find where the click is made. We can find that with ct pointer x and ct pointer y. Now, these values will be returned with a lot of decimals. Whole numbers will do fine. We get that using MathFloor. I pick out the values for the top left corner for each of the keys in the top row. Well, the y value will be the same for all the keys in that row, so I put that into a variable. We know the width and the height of the keys too, the same for each key, so I put those values in variables as well. So I need a function to check if a click is made with the pointer inside the area of a particular key. ctjs have a function that can do that. ctuPointRectangle px, py, x1, y1, x2, y2. So it uses the x, y values for the top left corner and the bottom right corner. I could use that function, but I would rather use the width and the height. Now you can get one from the other, but I prefer to make my own function in the scripts tab. I call this function in area. So I can now check for each of the keys in the top row if it is a hit, and if so, play a click sound and add the letter of that key to the variable player name. I create a font in the program and set up writing the player name above the keyboard. There will be links in the description below to videos on handling audio and text. With the audio and the text, we can check if this works in principle, which it does. I set up a code to iterate 4 loops for each of the rows of keys. For each row, I set up a list for the letters for the keys in that row. This gives us a more compact code. I also set up a key for resetting player name to an empty string. If the player types in something wrong or otherwise want to change what they have already typed in, we can clear the player name and start over from the beginning. And I have set up a key to jump to a different page where the player name is used. For now, this is just to demonstrate that we can use the variable elsewhere in the game. We do now have a working way for the player to type in a name and use that name at different places in the game. There are a couple of things we could add to improve this model, but for now that will have to wait for a later video, because this will be all for this time. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you later.